Well, welcome. My name is Eric Austin. I am the director of the Wheeler Center. Thank you so much for braving the roads. I was hoping to be able to welcome you on a balmy early April morning. Springtime in the Montana Rockies. I guess this is probably to be expected, but thank you for braving the roads. For coming out. I guess the good news is that you're not going to be missing out on 60 degrees and sunshine while we're here today. So looking forward to a good conversation. As many of you probably know, the Wheeler Center is the only statewide policy center here in Montana that is focused on the breadth of issues that arise and may be of concern to the citizens and the people of Montana. The mission of the center is to promote, discuss, and to analyze, and hopefully eventually help resolve critical issues facing Montana and its people. One of my favorite quotes from Senator Wheeler is that an informed people is the basis of and the necessity for successful democratic government. The people of the United States are entitled to hear all of the sides to a question, whether it be political, economic, social, racial, or religious. I think all too often, particularly with the issue of coal and energy, we tend to narrow the discussion of those issues, and this one particularly, down to a question of either jobs versus the environment, one or the other. Clearly, that kind of a depiction of coal and energy is too narrow and too simplistic, maybe even incorrect. And in an effort to try and, I think, achieve our mission, but live up to the vision that the senator set forth so many years ago, our aim is to try and broaden the conversation, to have a deeper, richer, smarter conversation. As a political scientist, I'm very much committed to the notion of democracy as a marketplace of ideas. I think all of those elements coincide really nicely, and I'm very much excited to see such a great group of folks come together today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation among our panelists and including all of you as we try to broaden that conversation about coal and energy, how we got here, where we are now, and what the future may look like for us. I want to, as quickly as we can, get to the substance of the day. I have a couple of obligatory but very sincere thank yous to say before we get too far. First and foremost, to our conference sponsors, Northwestern Energy and the Big Sky Economic Development Authority, who were very generous in supporting our activities today. So thanks very much to them. I also want to acknowledge Montana State University, where the center is located, for their ongoing and continued and generous support for the center's work. While we are located at Montana State University, we are a nonprofit, independent nonprofit organization, nonpartisan, non-advocacy organization. The other obligatory but sincere request that I would make of you is that if you value activities like these, conferences like these, please consider contributing to the Wheeler Center. You can visit wheelercenter.org, visit our Facebook page, but thank you for your support. And a couple of logistical notes as well. If you are parked in the parking garage adjacent to the hotel, you can get your parking validated at the front desk downstairs. Hopefully all of you have heard this, but I'll just remind you that your name tags have a colored sticker which will indicate the lunch that you requested. When we get to the lunchtime, make sure that that is just available and visible to the folks who will be serving, so they know what food to get to you. Having said all of that, it is my distinct pleasure at this point to introduce a very special guest who has been a big friend of the Wheeler Center, supportive of the Wheeler Center for a long time, and for whom this issue, among many others, is important to them. It is my great pleasure to welcome Montana's Senior Senator, Jon Tester.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate the kind introduction, and I want to thank you and your team at the Wheeler Center, all the sponsors that helped made this this conference happen. But I am a big fan of the Wheeler Center. The Wheeler Center tackles tough issues, and they get people together in the same room and have folks visit about potential solutions to problems, and they come up with some pretty darn good ideas in the end. So, Eric, I just want to thank you and the Wheeler Center for the great work that you've done. For more than a century, coal has played an active role in Montana's economy. From the mining of coal to transforming it into energy to distributing it across the region, the impact of Montana's coal industry is in every corner of our state. Coal continues to be a major part of our energy portfolio, and along with things like wind and hydro and natural gas and geothermal energy, coal will continue to play a critical role in our state's energy future. But the coal industry has some challenges. This is a challenging time, and that is why this event is so very critical, not just for coal country, but I believe for the entire state of Montana. I hope the folks in this room continue to work together to come up with solutions on how better to empower the industry and the workers that surround it. We must fully tap Montana's energy potential to cut into our reliance on foreign energy. Since 2005, when the United States' energy security hit an all-time low, energy production in this country has risen by over 50%. That's good news. Over the past 10 years, through market forces and political leadership, the United States is closer to energy independence today than it has been in over a generation. Growing out of energy production is a way to create good-paying jobs, and the United States can boost public revenues. I see a lot of legislators and former legislators here. The Coal Tax Trust Fund is something that, if you're in the legislature, plays a very important part of meeting some of the infrastructure needs of this state. And so I think it is critically important that as we move forward in this state, that coal remains a major part, quite frankly, of our energy production. So here's what I'm doing. I am trying to strengthen coal production. How? By spurring innovation, and particularly in research and development. I fought to expand tax credits earlier this year through a program called 45Q. And this credit is used by energy developers to build out their carbon capture, utilization, and storage capabilities. It incentivizes development of technology to transform carbon emission into usable products. I know that extending the 45Q tax credit, although that would be foreign to some, there are many in this room it was a top priority for. And I'm proud that we're able to get that across the finish line in the budget deal that we passed about 2 weeks ago. The Indian coal production tax credit is another one that is critically important especially for the coal, for Crow country and the coal that they develop down there. It supports good paying jobs in an area of the state, quite frankly, that needs more good paying jobs. In the budget deal, we were also able to increase funding for the Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy Research and Development, and we bumped that up by nearly $50 million. Now, what does this office do? It is made up of scientists and engineers and technicians who work daily to produce new technologies and efficiencies that will enhance coal development while protecting clean air and clean water. Ultimately, this bipartisan funding bill that we passed last month is good for Montana, and quite frankly, I believe it's good for coal. And we're already working currently, when we get back on Monday, on next year's appropriations bills. Now, President Trump has made a promise to bring back more and better jobs for America's coal workers. I look forward to seeing him deliver on that promise, and I will do my part as Appropriations Committee member, where I have a seat at the table, to continue to use that position to fight for resources that will strengthen America's energy sector. I'm going to continue to prioritize new technologies and innovations that will strengthen energy production, and that would also include coal. I will also continue to ensure our allies like the Office of Fossil Fuels Research have the resources that they need to continue their important work. So please make sure that your voice, there are many voices in this room, make sure they're heard during this process. And feel free to contact me with your appropriation priorities so that we can continue to invest in Montana's economy and Montana's workers. I am confident that we can again pass funding bills that prioritize rural America and Montana and our natural resources. Speaking of workers, I want to close my brief comments with a message for our coal workers and their families. Coal workers help build this state, and communities like Colstrip have produced some of the very best that our state has to offer. But no one, and I mean no one, has felt harder the impacts of market fluctuation and market force changes than our coal workers. I know that the IBEW and the other unions have worked hard to protect good-paying jobs, and they deserve our support. It is unclear if coal will ever have as large a share of our energy sector, of our energy market, as it did when I was growing up. But that doesn't change our responsibility, the folks who have dedicated their careers and their lives working in coal mines, power plants, or on transmission lines. But what I outlined here today, new technologies like carbon capture and utilization and powerful incentives like the 45Q tax credit, also requires workers to install and maintain new equipment. As we work to support this great state's energy economy, these common sense ideas will make real strides towards addressing climate change while also creating jobs. It requires innovation and it requires manpower. These innovations create jobs in the same communities that are currently facing much uncertainty, but it also requires investment. And we can't strengthen opportunities for our coal workers and our coal communities by sitting on our hands. We need private investment, and quite frankly, we need public investment. Those two need to be paired together so that we can expand technology and give coal country a fighting chance to have a bright future. And it requires an attitude that tomorrow can be better than yesterday. The same speech I gave to the FFA kids last night, by the way. I am fully committed to strengthening the energy development by protecting our clean air and clean water, creating more good-paying jobs, and protecting Montana's way of life. And I know the folks in this room share that same commitment, and that is why I look forward to working with each and every one of you to strengthen the coal industry, not only today, but tomorrow and beyond. And I want to thank, once again, the Wheeler Center and Eric for bringing this group together to talk about an issue that is not simple. In fact, it is complicated. But what I have found with Montanans, if you get them in the room and people start exchanging ideas, they can boil it down pretty fast. Thank you all. May you have a great conference.